What's going on, everyone? Hope you all are doing well out there. Welcome to another edition of the CS Podcast presented by the NFL Draft Bible. Yes, we're only 1 month removed from the 2015 NFL Draft, and we're already looking at talent that will be entering the National Football League next year. So be sure to check out the website at NFLDraftBible.com. Once again, I'm your guys' host, Chris Shanafelt, and on today's show, we'll be focusing on the Arizona Cardinals. I'll be joined by columnist for the Arizona Republic, Bob McManaman, get his thoughts on all things Cardinals. OTAs are currently going on over there, so we'll see if there's any positional battles or anybody really to look out for. We'll also get Bob's expectations on the team and much, much more there with Bob McManaman of the Arizona Republic. I'll also be joined by Cardinals linebacker and special teams standout Lorenzo. We'll hear how he's feeling as he's overcoming a Liz Frank injury from 2013. We'll see if he's back to full strength. Get his thoughts on some of the young guys that the Cardinals have brought in. Some competition was also brought in through free agency, and the differences between defensive coordinator James Bettcher and the team's former defensive coordinator, now the head coach for the New York Jets, Todd Bowles. Also, towards the end of that interview with Lorenzo Alexander, he gives great advice to late-round draft picks and undrafted rookies entering the National Football League this season. Of course, he was an undrafted guy himself out of Cal who's gotten out to 2 Pro Bowls, one as an alternate, so he has some great advice for those who may be a late-round pick or an undrafted player that's fighting for their job. You guys can follow Lorenzo on Twitter at OneManGang97, Bob McManaman at AZBobbyMac, as well as AZCentral.com, and myself at Chris Shanafelt. And be sure to check out this podcast as well as some of my other work at NFLDraftBible.com, YouTube.com/ChristianRE722, and ChristianShanafelt.wordpress.com. That's ChristianShanafelt.wordpress.com. Now, without further ado, here's my interview with Bob McManaman of the Arizona Republic. You guys are listening to the CS Podcast presented by the NFL Draft Bible. Check out the website, NFLDraftBible.com. Once again, I'm your guys' host, Chris Shanafelt. I'm now joined by Bob McManaman, columnist for the Arizona Cardinals, for the Arizona Republic. You guys could give him a follow on Twitter at AZBobbyMac, and check out his work at AZCentral.com. Bob, thanks for taking some time today. Now, let's jump right on into it. OTAs are currently going on, and it sounds like there's some legit competition for that third quarterback spot. Now, normally we probably could care less about the third-string quarterback, but anybody who's watched this team last year knows that it was the third-string quarterback, Ryan Lindley, who's no longer on the team anymore, of course, that started that playoff game against Carolina last year. 2014 fourth-round pick Logan Thomas is going to have to impress to keep his job, as it sounds like Chandler Harnish and Phillip Sims are opening some eyes in OTAs. Now, of course, it's just OTAs, and I know it's hard to tell, but how is this group of quarterbacks looking in practices? Of course, starting from Carson Palmer, who's coming off of an ACL injury, to the undrafted rookie, Phillip Sims.
Oh, first, thanks for having me on, Chris. I will say it's the competition is certainly there at the number 3 spot. Number 1 and 2 are locked with Carson Palmer and Drew Stanton at 2. Palmer and Stanton are both coming off knee injuries. Palmer's with the ACL, obviously. He's doing a lot more than I thought he would be at this point. He's doing 7-on-7s pretty much from start to finish. No 11-on-11 work yet, but that'll be coming up, I think, later when the mini camps continue in another few weeks. And he should be good to go totally 100% by training camp, which is great news. But the competition at 3 is really interesting because Phillip Sims is almost like a wild card, late addition thrown into the mix, and Bruce Arians said so himself that this is no give-me for Logan Thomas, which he protected the rookie last year by not playing him in the playoffs. I thought they should have went to him at halftime, quite frankly, of that game, because Lindley was actually the 4th string. I mean, he came in late in the year after the injuries and went from 4 to starter. You're not going to win playoff games like that. But Logan Thomas is really interesting here because they spent a high pick for a guy. I mean, 4th round. A lot of people thought he would go in 6th or 7th, maybe 5th or 6th. But semi-high pick for him, and they protected him. They didn't want to expose him to any failure and thus stunt his growth. So by doing that, you think that they have big plans for him. And maybe they do. But right now it looks like he's fighting for his roster life against Phil Simms and Chandler Harnish.
And, of course, that's once again for the third-string quarterback spot. Is there any other legit positional battles we should look out for?
Well, cornerback I thought would be more of a battle when trying to replace Antonio Cromartie. You got three guys there that could play opposite Patrick Peterson, and Arians pretty much anointed Gerard Powers, who he had in Indianapolis for a year, as the guy. Played pretty well, very smart player. Arians refers to him as a coach. He's the only guy that they took with him on the road when he was hurt in Indianapolis to coach the team as an injured player with a toe problem. He's out for the year on IR. They made him travel with the team just to help coach the defense. So he's got a lot of trust in him, and he's pretty much anointed him as the starter. I thought Justin Bethel would get a really good look, and he's a Pro Bowl special teamer who's got amazing athletic talent, and he's very young, and he could handle the job, I think, on any team. But he's going to have to be playing in nickel and dime situations. So that was interesting. There's a big position battle looming at center. You got a couple of journeymen fighting for the spot there. As you know, they released Lyle Sundline, had been with the team for a long time, was the longest tenured lineman by far. The only holdover on the line from the Super Bowl run they made against the Steelers back in 2008. So they could bring Sundline back since he hasn't signed anywhere. I doubt it. It looks like they're moving on without him. And that's the big hole. This line is the best offensive line that they've had in Arizona. With the additions of Jared Valdir at left tackle a year ago, and then you bring over Mike Potty from the 49ers this year. You drafted Jonathan Cooper a couple of years ago. And then they got DJ Humphries this year. So, I mean, the tackles and the guards are great, but the center position, I guess you can make up for some of that. But that's an area of weakness, and maybe someone will get released in the summer. They could bring in and patch that position up.
We are only about a month removed from the 2015 NFL Draft, Bob, and looking at what the Cardinals did in the draft, like you said, they drafted offensive lineman DJ Humphries out of Florida in the first round, defensive end Marcus Golden out of Missouri in the second round. A lot of people thought that was pretty early for early round for him to go in. And personally, one of my favorite picks of the entire draft really was running back David Johnson going to the Cardinals in the third round. I know that in your article that you wrote earlier this week, Arians isn't expecting any of these rookies to have a pivotal role this season. Obviously, that can change. I mean, we are only in the end of May. But do you really believe that?
Well, I mean, he said it. I could be just coach speak, obviously. And he doesn't want to. Rookies have to earn their keep in the NFL. But Arians has shown the last 2 years he's not afraid to give rookies starting jobs if they deserve it and there's a need. There really isn't the huge need, but I would agree with you that David Johnson should be splitting time with Andre Ellington, and I would even further that by saying I think he might even be the better solution as a starting tailback over Andre Ellington, only because Andre's small and there's injury situations there. He's an electrifying player. Arians wants to use him more as a receiver and a guy you can move out, even if you throw him out of the backfield, but just use his ability once he's got some space between him and a defender, as opposed to running him up into anywhere near the line. You can't do it. He's not big enough. He's not fast enough that way. But when he gets his hands on the ball in the open field, he can make dynamic plays. I liken him to a Patrick Peterson, only much faster. Just a guy with great awareness on how to avoid getting tackled. David Johnson would solve so many problems if they just did a 1-2 punch there. I don't care how they split the carries. That's got to happen. That's what they said when they drafted him. That's what Johnson said he was told. And now, Arians comes out and says, we didn't draft any of these guys to start them. Well, you've got an obvious need at running back. You ranked last in the league. They've been 25th or worse in rushing, like 7 of the last 9 years. That needs to change. You draft a guy, I think was a steal of the pick as well, Chris. And you gotta let this guy play, because he can take your running game to a new level, especially behind an improved offensive line. And with the quarterback coming off an ACL, you want to give more carries to a guy like that.
And like you said, I mean, you don't need to give all the carries to David Johnson. I personally would be fine with seeing him split carries with Andre Ellington. I think that would be a nice 1-2 punch, a solid running back duo right there for Arizona. If there's a rookie that would have an immediate impact on this team this year, would it be David Johnson, or is there anybody else on that they might have drafted that you could see having an impact on this team?
Yeah, there's a guy everybody should take note of. His name is Rodney Gunter, and this kid is very, very special. You can tell he's got star makeup in his character and his football ability. A great story, but a beast of a player, man. He'll get after quarterbacks this year as a rusher, pass rusher. He'll probably start in a limited role, and he'll have to do some special teams work. But once this kid gets adapted to the pro level, I think he's going to be a star. He could be one of those where did he come from type of players. I'm telling you, this guy, besides David Johnson, that's the guy I think everyone will be hearing about this year.
Of course, from little old Delaware State, Bob, I like to say that I like to, kind of specialize in small school talent. And I'll tell you what, that was the first guy off the board that I had no idea who he was, Rodney Gunter out of Delaware State in the 4th round. Everyone
should go watch tape on Rodney Gunter, and then you'll know where he's from, and you'll know who he is. I'm telling you, he's my favorite player of the rookie class. And I love David Johnson because he's a bright young kid. He's funny and he's got great personality. I love guys who can play and aren't afraid to be themselves, and both of those two gentlemen are exactly that.
Another great story coming from this year's rookie class is undrafted free agent wide receiver that's gotten some press lately, Trevor Harmon out of Division II's Shippensburg University. He's actually the nephew of head coach Bruce Arians, and some would hear that and automatically think that that's the only reason why he's getting an opportunity with the Cardinals, but that's not the case. If I'm not mistaken, Harmon actually had other offers from other teams, and if you look at what he's done throughout his 4-year college career at Shippensburg, he really did dominate the Division II level. He reeled in 320 receptions for over 4,200 yards and 61 touchdowns, all school records. Not to mention he's 6'3", has some great speed. Now, even with Arians being his uncle, the odds are still against Harmon. What do you think are the chances of Harmon making the 53-man roster as that 4th or 5th wide receiver, or even the practice squad?
Practice squad, I would say, is his best shot. I think it's more than a long shot that he cracks this team, but if you keep him under contract on the practice squad, he'll get a chance either here or somewhere else. Obviously, somebody can sign anybody off the practice squad and have to put them on the active roster. That could happen, I guess. His preseason is going to be the difference maker for him. It won't be what he does in camp. It'll be what he does in the preseason. So hopefully he gets to make an impact there to help his cause. But I think there's no way he can make this roster. They'll probably carry 6 receivers, and they're stacked at wide receiver. And I think they're 8 deep in quality of guys that I would like to see make this team that I think are more than deserving of. So you've got to let 2 really good players go. They also drafted a receiver, J.J. Nelson, who runs a 4.23 40, which is unheard of. And you team him on the outside with John Brown, who's almost as fast, with Fitzgerald and Floyd. There's 4 right there that are quality guys. So I think it's going to be rough for him, but it's a great story, and I hope he makes it somewhere if it's not here.
Once again, Bob McManaman of the Arizona Republic joining the CS podcast presented by NFLDraftBible.com. Shifting gears now, Bob, to the defense. Last year's defensive coordinator, Todd Bowles, he's now the head coach of the Jets, and James Betcher, who was the outside linebackers coach, is now taking over the defensive coordinator. Should we expect any changes with the defense, or no, it'll look similar to how it's looked in years past?
I think it'll look similar. The word I'm getting and hearing, and not only talking to James, but the players who are, playing his defense, is it's very similar to what Todd Bowles ran. But I think they took a few of the elements out when it comes to mass blitz schemes. Todd Bowles was very reactive during games, and was a play ahead, it seemed, of many offenses when he had personnel out there already expecting to know what was going on. And one of the most smartest coaches I've ever met in any sports at all. I think James has big shoes to fill. I think he'll do an adequate job, but I think they've got to kind of tone it down a little bit because Todd's defense was mostly built out of what his vision and his in-game preparations and changes and ability to react before things happen. And I don't think James has that yet. But working under him, obviously some skills will be passed down. So the coaching staff has the utmost belief in him. I think he'll have to prove it, and I think it'll be similar defense, but probably not nearly as aggressive.
All right, now we've heard this over the last couple of days. It's actually been out there quite a bit. Tyrann Mathieu is fully healthy now. I've been hearing mixed reports, though. I mean, cornerback or safety, with the loss of Antonio Cromartie and the depth that they have at safety, can we see the Honey Badger play more corner this year?
I would doubt it. He did at times in his career. I just think free safety is a good spot for him. I mean, he hits you like a strong safety, but because he's a ball hawk, hence the Honey Badger, right? He's going to be around the ball whatever position he plays. He's going to be an active ball pursuer, and I don't think he'll be a cornerback. Like I said earlier, I think Gerard Powers is your starter. Maybe he's a additional guy, but free safety is where he should be. My opinion.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, in my opinion, I think Mathieu is one of the more fun players to watch in all of the National Football League. Now, Bob, here's a name that I'm not sure you've been asked about in quite some time, but when he's on the field, he's one of the best linebackers in the league, and that's Darryl Washington. I know that in the past, Bruce Arians has made it clear that he isn't guaranteed a roster spot. Excuse me. Is there any update on Washington? I mean, has he been around the facility? Is he participating in OTAs?
No, he can't be until he's cleared off his suspension. He's indicated to us that he has been planning on applying for reinstatement. The league will rule on it once he does. And last we heard, we weren't sure if he had formally applied yet. There was a certain date he can do it between. I think it's coming up very shortly where he has to do it, or he risks being suspended further, which he already will be, Chris. I mean, don't forget. He was suspended all last year for violating the drug program again, and it was a calendar year. He still hasn't been suspended for the domestic violence situation he was involved with when he broke the collarbone of his child's mother. So if Greg Hardy's going to get 10 games after missing 15 games last year, I would assume that Darryl Washington's going to get at least 10 games. And who knows if he's violated his drug program again. It's going to be the same thing as a Josh Gordon, when a guy just cannot put the joint down. He said he will. He's a great player. He's a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker, and I would dare to guess he's the quickest, or he was anyways, the quickest linebacker, inside backer, now that Patrick Willis is retired in the NFL. So I hope he doesn't throw his career away, Chris, but I just don't trust him enough. I think since you're going to miss him for at least probably 10 games again, I wouldn't count on him. They've paid him most of the $10 million they owe him. I think they'll probably try and get it back if he's suspended for 10 or more games. So, great player with a questionable future, and maybe could have been Hall of Famer, but that's gone now, and his roster spot isn't safe. And again, if I was running this team, I think I would just cut ties with him and move on.
Once again, columnist of the Arizona Republic, Bob McManaman, joining the show. And, Bob, just a few more questions for you, and then I'll let you go. I really do appreciate your time. It's always great speaking with you. Bob, now last year, in 2013, this team went 10-6, just missed the playoffs. And now last season, despite losing some key pieces due to injury, they finished 11-5 and made a playoff appearance where they lost to the Carolina Panthers. It looks like they have a pretty tough schedule this year. Of course, 6 games will be against the NFC West opponents. Even with all the turnover in San Francisco, it's still one of the toughest divisions in the league. You just cannot overlook St. Louis and, of course, Seattle. They've been representing the NFC in the Super Bowl the last 2 years. As of right now, I mean, what are your expectations for the 2015 Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I think if they stay healthy at the key positions, they're definitely a 10-win team. How much more than that remains to be seen. I think if the running game improves, I think it will, only because the offensive line is superior now compared to what it used to be. That means they should be able to protect Palmer better. The defense to me is not an issue. There's still some questions at inside backer. They brought in a guy like Sean Weatherspoon who could help if he stays healthy. There's some better pass rushers, but you don't have a superstar elite outside guy or edge guy. They're going to have to do it by strength and numbers. They have that. So you'll see a lot of rotation there. If one guy emerges, maybe it's Alex Okafor, who did have 8 sacks a year ago, kind of as a surprise. If he takes another step in his development, I think this team is 10 wins for sure, maybe 11 or 12 if 3 or 4 or 5 guys step up and have career years. So love the coaching staff. I love the way they work the ball. I do like this defense. I think it's a little bit of a hole losing Todd Bowles. It's a pretty big loss, but I still think 10 wins is a guarantee. And I'm not really concerned about San Francisco anymore, Chris. I know that there was that was a team to fear. It's not anymore. To me, that team has gone by the wayside, and they did it to themselves. And it started with the whole situation with Harbaugh. That franchise just took 5 huge steps back, and I don't think they're going to recover from it. St. Louis is a team on the rise, but I don't think they have the quarterback. Seattle's always a concern. So it's a 2-horse race, in my opinion. The West isn't as strong as it was. I do like St. Louis, but I just don't know if I trust the quarterback situation there.
All right, final question for you, Bob. Now you mentioned that this team, if healthy, that you could easily see them get 10, 11, maybe even 12 wins. What is one thing?
Maybe
12. Maybe
12. Probably 10.
What is one thing this team has to do in order to make a playoff appearance? One thing.
Well, they got to run the ball, Chris. I mean, just defenses can sit back when they know you can't challenge them on the ground, and bringing David Johnson in should help that cause a lot. They have strength in numbers there too. Again, I just don't know if I trust Andre Ellington, my bell cow, so to speak. If they run the ball, they're going to be better than we thought. If they are the same average to below average running team, it's going to hurt them, and that could cost them in a playoff game. You can't hold leads late in game if you can't run the ball and do it effectively and get big yards on 3rd down or 2nd down when you're 2nd and 10. They just haven't been able to be that type of team forever. So improve your running game, you improve your playoff chances and how far you get along, and that's the key element to me.
Hey, that sounds great. And of course, they drafted David Johnson in the 3rd round. They got Andre Ellington back there, Stephon Taylor. Curran Williams. We're not really sure what to look at for that running back position. Hopefully, we do get to see a running back duo of Ellington and Johnson this season, though. Bob, that's all I have for you. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for joining the podcast today. Now, before I let you go, can you tell our listeners where we could check out your work at?
Yeah, hit me at azcentral.com. I have columns under the Heat Index, it's called. Also called the Mac Attack. These columns are every single day on a variety of sports, but obviously big one always being the NFL. So you can catch me there on Twitter at AZBobbyMac.
Hey, sounds great. Once again, thank you very much, Bob, and hopefully we could do this again down the line, and take care, all right?
All right, Chris. Thanks for having me.
There he goes, Bob McManaman of the Arizona Republic. Be sure to check out his work at azcentral.com and give him a follow on Twitter at AZBobbyMac, doing great work on the Cardinals beat. I mentioned how Arians is on record saying that he doesn't expect any of this year's rookies to have a pivotal role on the team this season, but I think at some point we'll be seeing a lot of David Johnson. I think that both he and Ellington, if Ellington can stay healthy, I think that can be a really solid running back duo. Bob also mentioned Rodney Gunter Sounds like Bob's a pretty big fan of the small school standout out of Delaware State. As I said with Bob, I mean, Gunter was the first guy taken in this year's draft that I really didn't know anything about when he was taken in the 4th round. But if you look at his tape, there's no doubt the potential is there, and it certainly sounds like Bob thinks that this guy has what it takes to be a really good player for years to come. So we'll have to look at that. And like Bob said, I mean, go ahead and check this guy out. Check out his highlights. Check out his tape, and I think you'll agree with Bob McManaman on that. Bobby Mack expects this team to win 10, 11, maybe even 12 games, and I'll echo that. Barring any major injury, I expect this team to be one of the top in the NFC once again and possibly even make a deep playoff push this year. Anyways, great stuff from Bob McManaman of the Arizona Republic. Up next, let's move out to the locker room and hear from Arizona Cardinals linebacker Lorenzo Alexander. Welcome back to the CS Podcast, presented by the NFL Draft Bible. NFLDraftBible.com is the website. I'm your guys' host, Chris Shanafelt. I'm now joined by Arizona Cardinals linebacker Lorenzo Alexander. Long time no talk. Welcome back to the show, Lorenzo. How's everything going?
Everything's going great. I appreciate you having me back on.
Hey, the pleasure's all mine. So first things first, Lorenzo, in 2013, you missed a big chunk of that season with a Liz Frank injury. I've read that you may have not been up to full strength last season. How are you feeling today? Is that injury completely behind you yet, or does it still nag you every so often?
Yeah, I think it's behind me. I'm doing great now. The biggest thing when you come off of Liz Frank is that you just can't train the way you want to that off season that comes right after. So 2013 I heard it, and then leading up to 2014 I was doing a lot of rehab, and I really couldn't train the way I wanted to as far as intensity and stuff. It was really sore. And then even going into the season, it still was sore. I couldn't really plan off of it. And I finally, after going through a whole football season, and doing that after missing a year, my body's finally gotten back to where it was. So now I'm able to train, participate in OTAs, which is big time as far as just getting the reps, the mental reps, seeing it, moving around, cutting, doing football movements. So this year around, I'm expecting big things, trying to get back to where I was on special teams, and obviously getting a bigger role on defense this year to help us get to the playoffs and ultimately win a championship, which I'm kind of missing, on repertoire right now, towards the end of my career.
Absolutely. Well, I gotta say, it's definitely great to hear that injury seems to be behind you right now. Now, over the last couple of years, Lorenzo, you've been a part of one of the league's top defenses, ran, of course, by Todd Bowles. He took the head coaching job with the Jets in the offseason, and now James Betcher, who's done a great job with the outside linebackers in the past there in Arizona. He's now the defensive coordinator there. What would you say is the biggest difference between their coaching philosophies, Betcher and Bowles, that is?
I don't really think there's anything different from a philosophy standpoint. I think JB learned a lot from Todd and saw how he ran his ship, and he had great success. And I don't think he wants to change anything schematically what we do. Obviously, he's brought in a couple of defenses, and organizationally, the way he would run it. But overall, it's very similar to what we've done in the past, and we'll continue to do the same things because in this league, if you have guys that have been executing at a high level, we've been, top 10 both years I've been here. Why would you change anything? And I think he's taking that same approach. His biggest thing that he's learned, I think, from Todd is just making sure you put your players in the best position that's going to allow them to succeed. And sometimes that may mean you need to change your scheme up a little bit from week to week so we have the best matchups. And so far I see that in him. I know that's what he's going to move towards. And so right now it's just all about him gaining the trust of guys, because you had a Todd Bowles who had great success. Just gaining the trust of the men, the veterans in the room, the rookies, let them know who he is, and obviously make sure everybody's on the same page. And once we get out there and have some success, just like how Todd had to deal with the Ray Horton issue when he came in, we'll just be just fine.
Well, speaking of new coaches, I mean, what's it like to have Larry Foote as a teammate one year and as a coach next? I mean, he's now the Cardinals' inside linebackers coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun for me. I mean, he's more of a peer than a coach to me. Obviously, he's played the game a long time, and I can learn a lot from him if he was a player or a coach. It's just a title, as far as I'm concerned. But he's still one of the guys. Really love his passion, his enthusiasm that he brings in every day. And it's cool to have a younger guy, somebody that I play with that I can relate with. And also he bridges the gap, as far as the young guy, because they know he played. He has a lot of respect in the locker room. So guys are more amped to listen to him. He's won Super Bowl. So it's been a great transition for him. I know he still has that itch. He's in there working out and stuff. So it'd be fun to see what he decides to do as we get closer to the season.
Arizona Cardinals linebacker Lorenzo Alexander joining the CS podcast presented by NFLDraftBible.com. And Lorenzo, over the last few years, you've been a part of some pretty good teams. Obviously, these last two in Arizona and your final year in Washington back in 2012, all 10 or 11 win teams. Entering your 11th season in the National Football League, do you believe that the 2015 Arizona Cardinals are the best overall team that you've been a part of?
I mean, that's hard to say because we haven't won any games yet. I think the biggest thing is just, everybody looks great on paper during the spring and during OTAs. But what I love about this team is that we understand that we can't rely on what we did last year. Right now, Coach B, I think, does a great job of letting people know we're not the Arizona Cardinals right now. We're a whole bunch of me's, and not until September roll around do we become we's and become the Arizona Cardinals. And I think that's what you got to have. You got to have a healthy sense of competition, regardless if you've been in the league 2 years or you've been in the league like myself, going on year 11. So guys are out to competing, looking for a job, and I think he does a great job of making sure everybody from top to bottom is accountable and out there working hard.
I love that. I love that. Right now, with the roster of 90 guys, you guys are a bunch of me's, as you said, Coach Arians likes to say it. But once that roster gets down to 53 men by September, you guys are a bunch of we's. I really like that. Now, coming into the league as an undrafted free agent, Lorenzo, you've really had to compete to get to where you're at today. And like you just said, I mean, you're still having to compete for your job. And I'm sure you look at it that way each and every season. You're entering your 11th year in the league. This offseason, the Cardinals have brought in fellow linebackers Sean Weatherspoon and Lamar Woodley. I mean, are you looking forward to competing with these guys?
Yeah, I mean, they're great guys. I mean, I've been around them, obviously, Wood. I'm familiar with him just from what he did in Pittsburgh. We actually have had some similar coaches, so I always hear about him and watch a lot of tape. Great guy, great athlete. And Sean is, same way, professional, gets after it, love the energy that he brings. And, for me, I don't really look at that I'm competing against you. I know what I can do. I'm going to go out there and control what I can control. And he's going to do what he does, and then the coaches make the decision. So it's never really like, I'm not going to tell him how to do something because he's competing for my job. I mean, I'm way past that in my comfort level, my security in the league, and in my ability. So it's been fun, getting out there, learning things from those guys, and hopefully I'm teaching them something or they picking something up from me as well. You just go out there and compete because you want the Arizona Cardinals to be the best team that we can be, when it comes to September. And you always, whether I'm here or not, you always competing at a high level because you always have 31 other teams that are going to be looking at that film, especially during the preseason when you're out there playing ball.
Right on. Well, you guys also added some nice outside linebackers in the draft with second-round pick Marcus Golden and fifth-round pick Shaquille Riddick. I don't even think we're halfway through OTAs just yet, so I understand if it might be hard to say right now. But what are some things you're seeing from some of these young guys?
Well, for Marcus, I just really like his maturity, his eagerness. I think he has a sense of responsibility or, just a lot of passion about wanting to be able to produce and go out there and do a great job. So for me, I'm just telling him to make sure that he takes it one day at a time because I think sometimes when you draft a guy that you put all this weight on your shoulders and you want to go out there and, get 20 sacks, and sometimes that can be a little bit too much too soon for a young guy. So just taking it day by day, make sure you work on the things that you need to work on. Pick one thing or two things a day that you can continue to improve on. For him, it's really just dropping in space. He's done it in the past, but really not to the extent that, that we've done here with all of our coverages and stuff. So, that's really that's his shortcoming. I guess if he can pick anything out right now. Other than that, great athlete, great pass rusher. His biggest attribute is that he has a great motor, gets after it, and a high character guy. So, really, really going to enjoy seeing him develop as we move forward and go through this next season. Unfortunately, Shaq has been hampered a little bit these last couple of weeks, so he hasn't been out there. But all the guys that we brought in, I really like their character and their mentality and their eagerness to listen to you and try to help them out where they maybe need a little bit of coaching from a player's perspective. So it's been good, been a good environment in the classroom, and hopefully he gets out there soon so he can show what for what he can do physically as far as moving around, playing in space, and just rushing the passer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Definitely great to hear. Now, of course, the Arizona Cardinals are on everybody's radar this year, especially Lorenzo. I mean, last year was an injury-rattled season. Obviously, you guys did make an appearance in the playoffs. Unfortunately, had to go to your, I believe it was the fourth-string quarterback in Ryan Lindley. Yep. Anyways, what would you guys have to do this upcoming season to not only win the division, but to make a run for that championship that you mentioned earlier, to make a run for the Super Bowl? Of course, it all starts with those divisional games, and Seattle has represented the NFC the past 2 years in the Super Bowl. So what will you guys have to do in order to change that?
I think the biggest thing is just finish strong. I mean, defensively speaking, obviously you want Carson on the offensive side to stay healthy because your quarterback ultimately gives you the best chance to win if he's able to stay healthy for most of the season or all of the season. But defensively, I thought last year we faded towards the end of the year, and, you can point fingers at everything else if you want to, quarterbacks, special teams. But as a defense, I just thought we didn't tackle well. We didn't get off the field on third downs. So that's something moving forward in our second year or our third year in this defense that we need guys to continue to step up, have those young guys to take another step, a Deion Buchanan, a Kevin Minner, guys to continue to move forward and progress so that at the end of the year we have depth, making tackles, flying around to the ball, still creating those same type of turnovers that we were doing, week 1 through 12. And I think ultimately there, if we stay consistent there and be able to transition into the playoffs with that and even take it to another level, we'll find ourselves, making a deep playoff run. And number 2 is special teams wise. I just think that we haven't had a great return game. And then we also need to make, a couple of more big plays. Justin Bethel has been our bell cow these last 2 years, done a great job of making the splash plays, but we need more guys to step up in that area as well to continue to put the pressure on teams in that field position battle. And with those 2 areas continue to improve and be more consistent throughout the year, you'll definitely find us somewhere deep in the playoff run.
Do you have any, personal or team expectations for this season?
I mean, well, every year I come into the league, you want to win the championship. I mean, that's if you think of anything else, let's just try to make the playoffs, or let's try to win a couple of games more than we did last year. I think you're selling yourself short. So, not predicting anything, but my goal every year is to win a championship. Obviously, that starts with winning your division, and then once you get into the playoffs, stepping up and taking your game to that next level and taking it one game at a time. So we'll see what happens. But the one thing, like I said before, I really love how this team works every year. Guys show up. We almost have 100% attendance in OTAs, really starting to build that accountability now that really transitions into training camp and to the season. So love the guys on our team, great veteran group, and excited to see what happens this year.
Well, of course, on paper, you guys are certainly one of the top teams in the NFC. Once again, Lorenzo Alexander, linebacker and special team standout for the Arizona Cardinals, joined the CS podcast, presented by the NFL Draft Bible, NFLDraftBible.com. And, Lorenzo, final question for you. As I mentioned, I'm now doing some work for an NFL Draft website, NFLDraftBible.com. And as much as it is to, scout or watch film on some of the big guys, such as, Jadeveon Clowney, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, I kind of take pride in sniffing out some of the small school or under the radar guys that may end up being a late round pick or even undrafted. What advice would you give those guys who are entering the National Football League this season, fighting for their jobs right away as 5th, 6th, 7th, or undrafted players?
The biggest thing that I learned is just worry about yourself each and every day. Don't count numbers like they're going to keep 5 linebackers. 6 safeties. What do I fit in that mix? Just worry about yourself. Do your best job. Continue to work on the little things each and every day. Ask your coach, what do I need to work on? And pick 1 or 2 things a day and just try to improve on those things and just chop wood. Put your head down and grind. Because if you try to worry about everybody else and what they're doing, oftentimes you cause yourself stress and you don't perform as well. So only can control what you can control, and that's your performance, and that's what I would say stick with and get on special teams. That's the number one. That's why I've been around the league for so long, because oftentimes those late-round picks can get that 5th or 6th spot in a given position just because you're dominant on special teams. And then as you grow as a football player, seize the opportunity to play offense and defense.
Well, if there's anybody in that situation and they're looking for somebody with experience to kind of look at, I mean, you're the perfect example right there. Obviously, making a living on special teams and eventually getting your opportunity on defense. And as I said, that's all I have for you, Lorenzo. It was a pleasure speaking with you again. Hopefully, we could keep in touch. And I mean, do you have anything else for us before I let you go?
No, I really appreciate it. I'm very involved in the community. You can check out my foundation, LorenzoAlexander.org. Always trying to give back, always trying to find opportunities to partner with people. You also can follow me on Twitter, OneManGang97. And just appreciate everything that you've done for me, giving me exposure. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Lorenzo. Here's to a healthy season.
I appreciate it.
Some great stuff from the Arizona Cardinals linebacker Lorenzo Alexander. It sounds like he's fully healthy and ready to rock and roll. Even with the change at defensive coordinator, it sounds like we won't see much change to the defense. And, hey, you know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I really do like what he said, though, about how right now everybody on the team, they're me's. Because they're all fighting for their jobs right now. Nobody is safe, and once the roster is cut down to 53, then they turn to we's. They're all a team. And it sounds like he's striving for greatness. His expectations for this season is to hold up that Vince Lombardi trophy. And to be quite honest, I wouldn't expect it any other way. Check out Lorenzo's website at LorenzoAlexander.org to learn more about what he's doing in the community and with the ACES Foundation. And that's actually going to wrap up today's show. Hope you all enjoyed. Special thanks to Bob McManaman of the Arizona Republic, azcentral.com, and Arizona Cardinals linebacker Lorenzo Alexander for joining today's show. Be sure to follow Bob on Twitter at AZBobbyMac, Lorenzo at OneManGang97. You guys could also follow me on Twitter at Chris Shanafelt, and check out my work at NFLDraftBible.com, YouTube.com/ChristianRE722, and ChristianShanafelt.wordpress.com.